Today's talk is going to be on something called the Bodhidharma's One Mind Precepts. I don't think you've heard about them before, but anyway, here we go. Just take a little time today. As we know, when people become serious about their meditation practice, they can choose to take the 16 Buddhist precepts, 10 of which are referred to as prohibitory. 4 of these: do not kill, do not steal, do not misuse sexuality, and do not lie, resemble 5 of the historically unrelated Judeo-Christian Islamic 10 Commandments that were said to have been given to Moses by God. The other 6 of our precepts are: don't get intoxicated, don't talk about others' faults and errors, that is, don't gossip, don't elevate oneself and put others down, don't be stingy, don't be angry, and don't slander the 3 treasures. This last one, perhaps comparable to the 10 Commandments: don't take the name of the Lord in vain. Aside from honor thy mother and father, the other 5 commandments are concerned with how God should be treated by the faithful, which is by believing in him, by not believing in other deities, by not using his name to swear, and by worshiping him on Sunday. Zen Buddhists would not find these relevant, and what the 10 prohibitory precepts focus on instead is believing in and finally realizing our Buddha nature. This is made clear in the Bodhisattva's, Bodhidharma's One Mind Precepts. The 10 prohibitory precepts are the subject of it, but they are not the main point. Rather, our Buddha nature is. Here, let me go now. I'm going to have to share screen here. A little hard to read here, but I want you to be able to see them also, because it's a little hard to follow. So I'm going to read these to you. So this is the translation of the 10, as you see at the top of the screen, by Jakusho Kwong Roshi. He was one of the people that we sat with a long, long time ago in San Francisco. He began with Suzuki Roshi in 1960. So anyway, and he has a Zen group in Sonoma County. These, as you can see up there, these precepts are, well, you can't see it on my screen right now because it's cut off a little bit by the by my looking at your faces here. But anyway, this one is: self-nature is inconceivably wondrous. In the everlasting Dharma, not raising the view of extinction is called not killing. Self-nature, number 2, self-nature is inconceivably wondrous. In the ungraspable Dharma, not arousing the thought of gain is called not stealing. Number 3, self-nature is inconceivably wondrous. In the Dharma of non-attachment, not raising the view of attachment is called not being greedy. Number 4, self-nature is inconceivably wondrous. In the inexplicable Dharma, not expounding a word is called not lying. Number 5, self-nature is inconceivably wondrous. In the inextrinsically pure Dharma, not arousing ignorance is called not being intoxicated. Self-Dharma is inconceivably wondrous. In the faultless Dharma, not talking about sins and mistakes is called not talking about others' faults and errors. Self-nature is inconceivably wondrous in the Dharma of equality. Not talking about self and others is called not elevating oneself and putting down others. Self-nature is inconceivably wondrous in the genuine, all-pervading Dharma. Not clinging to a single thing is called not being stingy. Self-nature is inconceivably wondrous in the Dharma of no self. Not contriving a reality of self is called not being angry. Self-dharma is inconceivably wondrous in the Dharma of oneness. Not raising a distinction between Buddhas and beings is called not slandering the three treasures. I'm going to leave them up here for a while. But anyway, I've wanted you to see them, not because it's a little bit, repetitious here, but I want to explain that to you. Because to get the point of why these are one mind precepts. Okay, so notice that all these precepts start with self-nature is inconceivably wondrous. Other translations of the qualities of self-nature have been wondrous and imperceptible, or subtle and mysterious, or inconceivably luminosity, or inextrinsically pure. That they vary this much makes sense.
We're having trouble hearing. I think your papers are hitting your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, pardon me. I will stop doing that. Thank you though. They vary, these different definitions, vary this much, makes that they do this makes sense in that self-nature cannot be defined. So here we have, inconceivably wondrous. Okay, I chose this one because I like that one best. Because anyway, if we try to make sense of self-nature, then that would require us to use thinking. When it is delusions and other kinds of thoughts that prevent us from being able to recognize this self-nature. It's also called Buddha nature, but it's also called living nature. In this case, inconceivably and imperceptible seem particularly apt as they directly reflect that thinking is the problem. The one mind precepts are more about the purpose of Zen practice, being to awaken to self-nature, rather than about giving us particular things that we shouldn't do. Okay. After self-nature is inconceivably wondrous, each of these precepts follows the same syntactic form. They start with in, and then I have here ... Dharma. Okay? Here, Dharma mostly stands for Buddhist teaching, a collection of relative teachings based on our having a self-nature that is absolute. Different modifiers appear in the space where the dots in the Dharma, and the space between in and Dharma to give specific qualities that serve to further define Dharma. This will make more sense to us in life as our practice evolves. I'm going to give you 3 examples now. In the first, second, and third precepts, this becomes everlasting Dharma, ungraspable Dharma, and Dharma with non-attachment, respectively. A negative word appears next in each precept, followed by some way of thinking that would go against the specific quality of the Dharma just given in the precept. But that if thinking wasn't there would mean that the precept wouldn't be broken. That's kind of hard to parse, but the examples may make it clear. For instance, the first precept, I'm going to read it again, is self-nature is inconceivably wondrous. In the everlasting Dharma, not raising the view of extinction is called not killing. Paraphrasing this, as Dharma is everlasting, if we don't arouse the view of extinction, we won't be breaking the precept of not killing. In other words, the Dharma being everlasting, here meaning all things, if we didn't think that all things can die, it wouldn't be possible for us to break the precept of not killing. Another example of this pattern is the second precept. They're all this way, but anyway, the one about stealing. Self-nature is inconceivably wondrous. In the ungraspable Dharma, not arousing the thought of gain is called not stealing. That is, now the ungraspable Dharma, that is, that the Dharma cannot be grasped as long as we don't have something that we want to gain, that is, get for ourselves, we won't be stealing things. In the case of the third precept, self-nature is inconceivably wondrous in the Dharma of non-attachment. Not arousing the view of attachment is called not being greedy. This reasons that once we understand non-attachment and so aren't attached to having things, we won't have a chance to be greedy. It needs to be noted here that this precept is actually about either having sexual desire or misusing sexuality. Not having sexual desire would be pertinent to traditional monastics. Not misusing sexuality would be pertinent to lay persons. In those cases, if we aren't attached to having what we sexually desire, we won't be going after it no matter what. The rest of the Bodhisattva's one-mind precepts follow the same logic. They thus teach us that if we truly understand the practice from the point of view of one mind, we won't be doing things that would lead to our breaking the precepts. Having experienced our self-nature then would keep us from violating them or for even have inklings to do so. However, until we have recognized having our self-nature, we should have faith in it and so trust that the 10 prohibitory precepts are representative of who we really are and shouldn't be ignored. If we knew what was going on, there would be no need whatsoever for the precepts. They are about the true us, even if we haven't realized it yet. Awakening to one mind is what the founder of Zen in China stressed, Bodhidharma, and Soto Zen says that the way to do this is by sitting. Okay, thank you. That was a lot of information to parse there. Let me get rid of this part here. Okay, here you all are. Anybody have any comments or questions? Did it make sense, by the way? It's kind of hard. It'd be easier if you're reading it, I'm afraid. It's difficult to understand this. Yes?
Actually, I like these precepts, the way they're presented better than the standard precepts that we encounter, but can you clarify what is meant by one mind?
Well, one mind is, well, one mind is of course another name for Buddha nature. You know, each of us, we were talking last night with a group who was there last night, and the explanation of what we were talking about. Anyway, it said that that Dogen said that each of us already is a Buddha. That's what it means to have Buddha mind. We are all actually walking, sitting, sleeping, eating, etc., Buddhas. But we have no idea about it because our thinking mind, among other things, or our delusions, are always getting in the way. So we don't know who we really are. And who we really are is what we share with the rest of the universe. And that is one mind. Of course, in our own cases, it's our mind, but for each of us, you know, there's another image that I often bring up is in the Heart Sutra, in the Lotus Sutra, that the Tathagata, another name for Buddha, thus come one, is talking to an assembly of people like ourselves, but actually, in the sutra, everyone is a Buddha sitting on their own lotus, listening to the Dharma talk like you're listening right now. And that's exactly what's happening. And therefore, that's why we practice. We certainly don't practice to obey the precepts. That isn't the point. The precepts tell us who we actually are. And if we knew who we actually were, the precepts would disappear because it's us. So I wanted you to get this kind of point, even though, you know, it was tedious for you, I'm afraid. Suzuki Roshi taught us about the Lotus Sutra, which was really tedious, in about 10 or 12 talks. And he said to us, when we began, it was at Tassajara, he said, I'm sorry that I have to do this to you, but you should know what's in the heart, know what's in the Lotus Sutra. And then he went through all of it with us together. So therefore, that one mind is each of our minds, which, you know, for each of our worlds, we're all in our own world, and each of our worlds extends out to the edges of the universe and beyond. Every living thing has that same, now quote, mind. It's life. It's life. But we really don't understand our real life. And so that's what we practice for. We practice, of course, to get rid of our problems, maybe, but really, the ultimate reason we find out in the end is to find out who we really are, which is something extremely simple. We've complicated the whole mess. It wasn't a mess, actually, but we made a mess out of it by doing what we do. Thank you for the question. Anybody else? I took up a lot of the time this morning. Yes. Let me go Rachel first, okay. And then Jane. Okay, Rachel? I forgot.
That's the right order, Peter. I just wondered, on hearing the previous question, could someone think of, if they have trouble with one mind, could someone think of one awareness?
Yeah, that's very nice. Yes, that's true. One awareness. Well, yes, it's one awareness, but yeah, that works very well, I think. Jane?
Well, I was just thinking with all the lineup of things that they're actually very helpful in helping you to orient yourself to each one of them. But if we just took each precept and use it like a koan in our lives, we'd come to a similar understanding through just probing it over and over again, as come into it in our own words. so that words like do not lie, do not slander, do not steal, etc., we would come to an understanding of that just by going over and over. What does it mean to me? Why am I studying this? What is this for? What's the use of it, etc.? And just going deeply into it, I think we would come to a very deep understanding of it in our own words as well. So while I think that these precepts that were written today are very useful in that helping us to get started, finally we have to take hold of it like a dog worrying a bone and just hang on to it until it makes some sense to us in a way which we didn't expect. That's why I was.
Thank you. Anyone else? There's yes.
I still keep tripping over one mind. Is it like being, lack of a better term, it helps us focus our attention on our lives when we look at the precepts like this, that it's a form of concentration or something like that, because one mind, it makes me think that we're trying to avoid breaking our mind up with distinctions. And so with the precepts of being one-minded, it's a focus, like Rachel said, awareness. Am I grasping a little bit better with that? Is that it's like a real attention to these?
There's a there's a school of Buddhism, which is called the mind only school, and that's what what this mind means. Okay, but it's really it's in a way it's once again it's the I have faith in it, which is to say, I don't think about it from the usual point of view of faith, but I think that that's true, and that there is something there, something's missing, and that there is something there. But when we once again, when we try to make an awareness of it, with one awareness or with one mind or with mind only, it doesn't work. Because it really is beyond thinking. It's not, or underneath thinking, you might say. And it's not like a concentration. No, when deep samadhi is not necessarily one mind. It looks that way, but that's taking it, from the point of view of the absolute too much. Because finally you give up, we give up being deluded, and then we give up caring about enlightenment. We care about, or we give up. Those are other concepts to be given up ultimately, even though they're experiences in our meditation. So it's not a meditation experience. It's not something you can find in meditating. But you need meditation like a tool. We need our sitting like a tool in order to come to this realization. So don't try to personify it, because it doesn't get personified, right? Yeah. And so it has no name. Its name isn't God either. It has no name. Yeah. John? Oh, Jane, what?
Sorry, go ahead, John.
I think the terminology being used here, one mind, is tripping, has a tendency to maybe trip some folks up, because the word mind has a tendency to lead itself to thinking of our mind, or the self, the mind of the self. And I think what's trying to be translated here is really what you said before, is one mind is just another word for the interconnectedness of everything, or the the interdependence of everything, of really the the really what we talk about with Buddhism, that everything is interconnected, that we're all working we're all as one. And I think that's what the one mind is lending itself, not to this concentration mind thought thing that seems to be that this terminology leads itself to. Am I right here, Peter? Is that
Yeah, but
correct?
let me add a Buddhist saying here, which is very common, a Zen saying. Which was not one, not two. So it's something that is not one and not two. When we think of one mind, then we get stuck in one. But in fact, it's very misleading, actually, because it's not one. It's not one. Because all of this is also part of the so-called one mind. Yeah, Jane, what you say?
I was just going to say that I agree with what John just said. One mind is we're all in the same boat kind of mind thing. Of everything is working as one unit, and yet we're all separate at the same time. Even though we're one mind, we also have individual characteristics which make us react in different ways. So the object of not stealing is important because we think it's possible to take from another. But when we look at it from the point of view of all are one, we realize we can't take anything from anyone. And so this is the thing of no stealing, because you can't take what is already yours in this sense, because you're all in the same experience. And so you just have to curb your individual trait in the practice of the precepts and realize your commonality at the same time. That's what I think.
Yeah, but let me take one more example of the one that was sexual desire, and I think I didn't quite express that properly. It's not saying sexual desire is wrong at all. What is it? Because it can't be wrong. Otherwise, none of us would be here. But what it's saying is being attached to getting what you want. It's the attachment that is the problem. You may want something, but the problem is you don't get it, and then you get in trouble. So if you it's just a thought. A desire is a thought, and if so okay, it's like you wanted to watch some movie and suddenly it wasn't on TV. A very easy thing to do. You don't worry about it at all. But some things get kind of heavier in our minds, and sexual desire is one of them. Okay, but it's just a matter of don't grasp. It's one of the qualities that you have from the point of view of one mind. It's natural not to grasp. Anyone else? Spencer's talking to Donna, or is he going to have a question on? No. We're talking to a dog. Gotcha. Probably a dog. Okay, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us today.